Hello. I went to this morning. I've been 3 or 4 times now. I went this morning. I was actually meant to work this morning, but I didn't have to because I wasn't called. I was on standby, which is always a massive bonus in life. And so I had a bit of time and I went over. And the reason I actually wasn't going to go, because the last time I went, I think I made a video about it, I was kind of not that impressed. They don't have a lot of CDs. It's about 80% records, vinyl, and 20% CDs. Maybe 25, 75, but sorry, I'm just going to spray that. I'm trying to do something at the same time all day. And so I was going to go. And also the other issue is that it gets very busy. It's a relatively small space. It's a kind of a hall. But the weather today is not great. It's intermittent showers, quite heavy showers, grey. It's not really that cold because Auckland doesn't really get that cold in winter. It gets very wet though. And today is a real typical Auckland winter's day. Grey, clear for 10 minutes, rain for 20 minutes, light drizzle for 20 minutes, super heavy shower for 10 minutes, clear for 20 minutes. It's just off on all day. And so on those days like that, people don't like to go out, don't like to drive especially. And I thought, well, maybe it'll be a little bit quieter, not as busy. And so I went over. It only takes about 20 minutes to get there from my place, and parked up, went in. It was as busy as it always is, no less busy. So my theory was flawed. But anyway, I'm meant to be showing this, aren't I? It apparently is the biggest record fair in Auckland. So it says July 25th. They have one in July, and then they have another one towards October, November, I think like 2 per year. Excuse me. And the Mount Albert Record Fair, you'll find thousands of records, blah, 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 CDs, cassettes, and music memorabilia. Well, if you went there for cassettes, you'd be sorely disappointed. I think I saw probably about 20 cassettes total across all the different stall holders. The event is a must for all music lovers and essential for vinyl enthusiasts. So it's targeted at vinyl record collectors. It's called a record fair. But they do say specifically that they have CDs as well, and they do have CDs. They name the genres. Entry is free, because some of the other record fairs I've been to, they charge kind of a nominal fee, like a couple of bucks to get in. I don't know why, but they do. This one doesn't. 8:30 till 4. I got there about 10 a.m. The Mount Albert War Memorial Hall is a fabulous venue. Well, I don't know if I'd say that. Located near public transport. Well, it's on the main road. It's on New North Road, so I guess it is handy for buses. The train would be a bit of a hike if you got off at Mount Albert Station. I'm trying to think how far down. Yeah, you'd have been for a bit of a walk. It's between Mount Albert Station and Baldwin Ave Station. The venue has great access. It's family and wheelchair friendly. Well, I think you'd struggle getting around there in a wheelchair. It's so bloody packed. But please, no pets allowed. It's funny they've got to specify that, because it's kind of strange how in the last 5-10 years, people bring their dogs to places that they never used to bring their dogs to. Like, you'll see them out. Oh, just today, just after I went here, I was in a kind of a local shop buying some socks for work, some work socks, and someone walking around with their dog. And it wasn't like a guide dog, or maybe it was, but usually guide dogs are quite easily identifiable, and the person using it is usually, you can understand. And if it's being trained, they put a special kind of thing on the dog. Anyway, it's not just that. You see that everywhere. Like at cafes and restaurants, people bring their dogs inside. In hardware stores like Mitre 10 and Bunnings Warehouse, places like that. And to the point where they've specified here, please don't bring your pet. And I often think it's like, because people don't have kids nowadays, or at a much, much reduced, I'm giving you here my code, but that's okay. I don't think you're ever going to be in a situation where we're together and you have my iPad stolen from me, and then you have access to it. Auckland's best vinyl DJs pump up the jams, creating a great vibe while you hunt for a special piece of music, and to keep the energy levels fueled for all the frolicking coffee and snacks. So yes, there's food on site you can buy. There was also when I was there. Sorry, that contrast just went out of control. There's like a stage area as well, and they said at one stage, they went, okay, everyone, could I have your attention? And everyone's, looking in the crates and in the boxes and on the stalls for whatever they're looking for. And I didn't turn when they're saying this. And then he said, I've got here one of New Zealand's greatest musicians. And I went, huh? And I turned, and he said, it's some name that I've never, Barry Johnson. And I was like, I don't know who that is. I've never heard of him before. And then he said the band I actually had vaguely heard of, but they're a very, very niche kind of 80s kind of, I think, jangle pop type, connected maybe to that Flying Nun sound in Dunedin, but they certainly wasn't one of New Zealand's greatest musicians. So yes, that's where I went. And so I went, and like I said, it's so packed, it's hard to see things, because you're kind of pushing and trying to shimmy in between people, and some people have no concept of personal space, but at the same time have no concept of trying to make room for other people, and so I looked, and some of the places, the stuff they have is just wildly overpriced, and then the other stuff, because you feel it's at a market targeted at enthusiasts, music collecting enthusiasts. Someone's going to a hall on a Saturday morning to look at secondhand records and secondhand CDs, has some sort of, enthusiasm towards collecting music, and therefore is looking for stuff that maybe is a little bit rarer or a little bit more specialized. And it's like a fact that there are certain genres that are much more popular for collectors. In CDs, it's rock, metal, maybe certain kinds of hip hop, and electronic. Stuff like pop and more mainstream stuff, and kind of compilation type things, or classical music, that's not what collectors are buying. And that's borne out by the fact you go around the secondhand shops and you see the stuff that's left behind, and then in the secondhand trading groups you see the stuff that gets snapped up in a second. It's metal seems to be the one that most sought after, and I think part of that is that people who listen to metal are often more into the music. It's not really a casual thing. It's kind of something that you're really passionate about and want to buy the physical medium that the music is on. But in saying that, some of the people at this market had obviously just been to a secondhand shop like Salvation Army and just grabbed up a bunch of 50-cent CDs and then put them out there hoping to sell them. It was utter shit. Stuff that you would see anywhere. Like, whatever. There's the stuff that I say you see with Robbie Williams and Jeff Sewell or Sowell and Susan Boyle and Yulia and Hayley Westenra and Sol Mio, which a lot of these people you probably don't know, but there's stuff that you see a lot in New Zealand secondhand shops. And you think, no one is coming here to buy that. What are you on? So that, I'd say about half the stalls were like that. We're just selling just shit. Like things that you could go, and they were selling for $5 each. Stuff you could walk into any secondhand shop today and find for 50 cents. And then there was a few other ones that had a little bit more specialized, like jazz stuff, which is obviously for jazz collectors, which I'm not. I've got the odd jazz disc, but it's not really my wheelhouse. I don't really like jazz enough to be buying bulk amounts of jazz CDs. And then there was one stall of a guy who seemed onto it. He had a lot of rock and metal, quite a lot of mainstream rock and metal. It wasn't anything kind of particular underground or difficult to come by, but that's kind of to be expected. He had a lot of stuff like Ozzy Osbourne, not just the greatest hits collections, but it's like some of the albums, like Ultimate Sin I saw there. A lot of Marilyn Manson. What else did he have? Muse. Foo Fighters, and this stuff does sound quite mainstream, I know, but at least he was in the right direction, and he was the busiest stall, and I picked this up from him. Now, this is well above what I'd usually spend for this. This is the kind of thing that you could have found for $1 to $2. I've never seen it before, but you could. This is a greatest hits collection of the Cult, pure Cult, the singles from 84 to 95. Now, the reason I picked this up is because I like the Cult, but not enough to know their albums deeply. I know all the singles that are played a lot on New Zealand classic rock radio. I own, let me look while I speak, I own one Cult album, and I think it's the one with She Sells Sanctuary on it. I'm trying to look here and trying to speak while I look. It's always kind of hard. Here we go. Sorry, Sonic Temple is what I've got. Sonic Temple. And, okay, it's not the one with She Sells Sanctuary. It's the one with Fire Woman, which is another one of their big singles. Do I have any other car? I thought I had another, but okay, just the one probably. But yes, this has a kind of a lot of their other stuff. The other Cult album I owned way back when it came out, I think 1994, maybe 95, was the self-titled album, the one where they had a goat's head on the front of it, like it was a black and white photo of a goat. I think a goat or a sheep or something with horns. And it has the single Coming Down on it. And one of my favorite Cult songs, Coming Down. Now, I know for a lot of people, that album was kind of seen as I know a lot of Cult fans don't like that album. It kind of, it maybe had more modern sounds. Like I think it what's the word? It used some electronic beats and kind of trip hoppy type elements, maybe not like fully, but a little bit here and there in the production. And I think it wasn't that popular among fans of the Cult, but I always really liked the album, and I owned it on cassette way back in the 90s. So I must have liked it a lot to buy it. Because back then buying something was a kind of a commitment to the band. And I remember that album, especially the first song, starts off with piano, ding, ding, and bass. And it showcases what's his name? Astbury, I think. It showcased his voice not in the high register. You know how he usually sings on the type register, the higher. I quite like his not as strained low register as well, which you don't hear as much. But in that song, you heard it. Now I'm just searching it up while I speak. When I search Cult 1995, it comes up with Shoko Asahara, the Japanese Cult that did that sarin gas attack. The Cult, yes, the spring of 1995, that's it there. See, it was a goat. Well, it says, okay, a Manx long tan black sheep. Got some horns on it though, doesn't it? Now, the other song, I'm just trying to say, okay, so I got three stars out of 5. Maybe I'm wrong in the reception. Upon release, the album released. Or maybe I'm thinking, how do you, reception's usually where they say it, isn't it? Okay. Gone. That's the song I really liked. It is Astbury, which is the first song on the album. Kind of starts off very kind of slow and kind of moody sounding with the bass and the piano. And like I said, Ian Astbury singing with a kind of unstrained, low register vocal. And then kind of the chorus kind of explodes. Great song. I think Star was the other single from that album. Yes, Coming Down and Star. Anyway, that's not what I bought today, so I don't know why I'm talking about that. This is what I bought. And so what's on this? All the songs you'd expect. She Sells Sanctuary, Firewoman. Where's the other ones? Wild Hearted Son. Coming Down, which I was just talking about. Spirit Walker. Stars on there as well. I was listening to this in the car, and I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised how much I like those songs. You know, Cold is not the kind of band I listen to a lot, but they're kind of like a great rock band of that era. You know, I think Ian Astbury's got a great voice. You know, quite recognizable guitar tone, at least on some of those kind of late 80s albums, mid-late 80s, early 90s albums from Billy Duffy. So yeah, and it was $10, which, like I said, far over what I'd usually spend for this. But it's kind of like I'm there, I've driven all the way there, and I kind of just want to buy something for the fact that I've come all the way there, which I know is probably a little bit silly, but, you know, I'm a little bit silly. So there's the CD itself. It's in excellent condition. I looked at it and played it in the car. This is the booklet, which is also in excellent condition, which goes through the band's career. Look, these are all the different guys who've been in the band. God, they've got a fucking shitload of members. And this came out in 2000, by the way, this Greatest Hits collection. So Ian Astbury and Billy Duffy are seen as the two kind of anchors or permanent members, but you've had all these bass players. Haggis, I've heard of him before. Bob Rock is listed on the guitar there because he produced Sonic Temple, and I think he also produced the one after that, which was, we'll see when we come to it. And then all those drummers as well. And Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses, or for a time in Guns N' Roses, he played in the Cult before Guns N' Roses. So we've got Dreamtime, Love. There's the band there, looking very young. I think they were called Southern Death Cult originally. It might actually say somewhere in here. Or maybe just Death Cult. I'm pretty sure I've seen that they went from Southern Death Cult to just The Cult. Electric. Sonic Temple. Ceremony, that was the other one I was thinking of. Did Bob Rock also produce? No, because it came out in 91. He would have been producing the Black Album, wouldn't he? Because he did, I think he did Dr. Feelgood, 89, and then straight into the Black Album with Metallica in 90, and they released that in 91. And there's the album I was talking about. It looks quite different there, doesn't it? So, okay, so Firewoman, I'm just going to see which other ones are. Oh, so Rick Rubin worked with them as well. And Bob Rock also worked on the self-titled album, which I was just talking about, that I owned. Yeah, look, Star and Coming Down, produced by. So that's what he must have done after the. Well, no, because there would have been a bit of time in that. This was made in 90. That was made in 94. He finished the Black Album in 91. So he had 91, 92, 93. And then he went and did Load, I think at the end of 94 into 95. No, end of 95 into 96. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, does it? So yeah. So that's not really that interesting, I know. But it's more about. There's been a lot of kind of, they're not hardly mainstream, but I saw if you're following the CD collecting subreddits on Reddit, which I'm sure most people don't, but I kind of pop in and out of there, sometimes read bits and pieces. I don't contribute, but I do read things on there. And in the last week or two, a lot of people are posting this article that the growth in new CD sales has outstripped the growth in new record sales for the first time in a long time. This first half year, I think, or first quarter. So it's not that they sold more. It's that the growth percentage was higher. So records are still selling more, but the percentage of growth year on year, or maybe quarter on quarter, or half year on half year, was greater for CDs for the first time in a while. And it just does seem that there is a bit of at least a small resurgence in CD collecting from what it was even a few years ago, but not enough to have like a kind of I imagine like having a CD fair. So that same space today, but no records, just CDs. I don't think it's at the level where that could be pulled off. And also, I would hate to kind of think what kind of shit they would try and sell at something like that. Because if they opened it up and say, okay, we're only doing CDs, so it'd be all these, people coming out, and there'd be people just going around the secondhand shops, buying up whatever tat they could find, and then trying to flog it for a kind of a $5-10 sale, or just on whatever they could find. So I'd hate to see what was happening there. But I hope that one day it kind of does get to that point where, because it kind of does feel sometimes you're missing out when you go to those record fairs. That it does seem they have a lot more niche stuff, a lot rarer stuff, obviously a lot more expensive stuff as well, but more kind of the ability to hunt down something interesting. Whereas with the CD side of that's a lot less so. Like it's not, you're not going there and finding like rare stuff at all. You're finding kind of a bunch, I don't know. Kind of talking around in circles here. Anyway, that was my morning. And now I've got to go pick up my son from his extracurricular and complete my Saturday. Anyway, thank you for watching Pure Cult.